You know, it's actually quite funny because I spent more than 2 years waiting for Bioshock Infinite to be released, and now that it has been released, I essentially completed it in 2 days. And it's like when you finish a big novel, it's like there's this big void in your life afterwards. Well, maybe not a void. Probably something more like a terror into an alternate reality where I might not have even played Bioshock Infinite, or even one where Bioshock Infinite never existed. Let me preface this video by saying that this will be a completely spoiler-free territory. I won't give any details with regards to the characters, the plot, or the storyline. I've wanted to do this video for a while, basically just outlining what I thought was great about Bioshock Infinite, what I thought was not so great, and just some weird things that came up during gameplay. Bottom line, I was really impressed by this game. I think once the dust has settled, it'll go down in history as one of the best video games ever made. The setting for this game is phenomenal. I mean, Colombia is just one of those places where you really want to stop and just look and take in every little detail. And one thing the Bioshock games do really well is they show as opposed to tell, and by that I mean they don't infodump the player with large amounts of exposition. And the only instances where you get backstory in this game is through the voxophones. Essentially these voice recorders, similar to the audio cassette players in the first Bioshock, that you have to find for yourself in order to unlock the secrets that Columbia holds. And when I say I really enjoyed the setting, I'm not just talking about the place of Columbia, I'm also talking about the characters of Columbia and the historical context that the game takes place in. I really like this idea of this whole nation seceding from the US and basing their whole ideals on this religious fundamentalism where it upholds this kind of racial purity and denounces anyone who might be an immigrant or who might be considered unpure. And again, this is shown rather than told. There's a scene early on in the game where you go to the whites-only bathroom, and it's just the most clean, immaculate washroom you've ever been in. And right across the hall is the colored-only bathrooms, or the Irish-only bathrooms, and there's shit on the wall, it's completely filthy, everything's broken and leaking, and Elizabeth actually asks you, why are the bathrooms so different? And Booker has no other way to explain it other than to say, that's just the way things are. It's just the little choices that the developers decided to make that really pull you into the setting. I mean, it's one of those games that while you're playing it, you ask yourself, why can't other video games be like this? And I don't mean in terms of gameplay, I'm talking about why can't developers take the amount of time and effort as the people at Irrational Games did with Bioshock Infinite? I think the idea of giving Booker a voice was a real smart one, and I think the days of the silent protagonist are basically over. Not only is Elizabeth one of the best characters I've ever seen in a video game, but her AI is one of the most fluid and the smoothest I've ever seen, whether you're in combat or whether or not you're just walking down the street taking in the sights. She never hinders you during combat. I mean, this game isn't one giant escort mission. In fact, during combat, when you're at your most desperate times, whether you're low on ammo or low on health, she'll help you by throwing you supplies. I think the idea of adding tears to this game and Elizabeth aiding you by opening up those tears really added a new dimension to gameplay. Whether it was an automated turret, a giant hook that you can rappel off of, or a wall that could provide you cover as you fight against your enemies. And it didn't take away from the experience, and by that I mean it didn't pigeonhole you for taking one decision to open up one tear over another. Because ultimately we all have different playstyles, and how you chose to approach any given situation was really yours and yours alone. I thought the weapons in this game were varied and diverse, although I probably like the weapon selection in Bioshock more. But that's not to say that the weapons in this game were bad. I mean, they were really fantastic. Though I think a lot of people only geared towards using 2 primary vigors, and that's just the way the game is set up because you're only given 2 slots this time around. And for me, it was the Possession Vigor and it was the Bucking Bronco Vigor. Now let me talk about the ending, because I think it's a real source of contention for a lot of people. And when I was done playing Bioshock Infinite, I couldn't decide one way or another whether or not it's one of the greatest endings ever created, or whether or not the developers just pulled it right out of their ass. But after going on the websites and reading up on the fan forums with regards to explanations about quantum physics, fan theories, and stuff on Wikipedia, I realized that this ending was actually pretty great. I mean, it's really hard to talk about without spoiling anything, but I think it leads itself to the possibility of sequels down the road, and quite honestly, I think it's one of the best endings ever created in a video game. One thing I also really loved was the skyline system. I mean, I really had a blast playing these levels, so I wish there were more of them within the game. I remember watching the original demos for this game and thinking to myself, this could not possibly work in a video game. And true to form, the developers proved me wrong. I mean, it didn't lag, there were no issues with frame rate. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, I just loved using my skyhook and jumping on those rails and allowing it to take me to my next destination, all the while, shooting people as they're shooting me, and it was just fantastic. Okay, so now that I've gone over the good points about Bioshock Infinite, I just want to touch on things that weren't necessarily bad, but I think could have elevated this game from something good or great into something just perfect. And again, I will preface this section by saying that this is only my opinions, and I still think Bioshock Infinite is a great game, despite what I'm about to say. First, let's talk about the rechargeable shield, which was essentially taken from the Halo franchise, and as necessary as it was in this game, I didn't particularly like it. Much of the gameplay in the first Bioshock lent itself to being in these tight, narrow corridors, and I think being able to charge your shield from the Eve plasmid was really a great idea, but here it kind of falls at the wayside, as necessary as it is, because a lot of the time in Columbia, you're being shot at from every angle. One of the things that they didn't get right from the first game, in this one, is the fact that there are really no consequences for dying. For those that haven't played it, what happens is you essentially die, and Elizabeth revives you with a syringe, and you lose like 50 coins, which really makes no sense at all. And if you're in a real tight spot where you're being shot at from all angles, you'll essentially just keep reviving and reviving until you get to the next area, and it really doesn't provide that much of a challenge. And to that end, I really think they should have offered the 1999 hardcore mode straight from the get-go at this game. As it stands now, you have to complete a full playthrough of any given setting before unlocking that 1999 mode. I'm probably going to get a lot of negative feedback for saying this, but other than the 1999 mode, there's really no incentive to play through this game again. I mean, I would have really liked them to have put a multiplayer aspect into this game, or a cooperative aspect into this game, which they did at the beginning, but eventually took away. And as a result, there's really no replay value in Bioshock Infinite. Now, having said that, let's just talk about the gameplay a little bit. See, the thing is, Bioshock Infinite is a more straight-up linear title. You see, the thing about the first game is when you entered a new area, they were these large, albeit closed-off environments that you could really explore at your own leisure. And what happens as a result to gameplay is you realize that this is a more action-heavy title than it is a more stealth and strategy title. And I didn't realize how much the weapons in the first game relied more on strategy than they did on combat. I mean, you could throw down proximity mines on the floor, you can create those crossbow tripwires that were either electrocuted or that were rigged in some sort of way, and you also had the plasmid traps that you could throw down. And really in Bioshock Infinite, there isn't that same level of strategy other than the tears that Elizabeth opens up and the traps you could set with your vigors. And really my last complaint goes to purchasing upgrades. Now because the vigor upgrades cost more than the weapons upgrades, you have to decide very early on which route you want to go with, and you basically have to stick to that route throughout the entire game. And what you find is as you progress through the game, not buying these vigor upgrades actually works against you as enemies get tougher. Okay, now really I just want to talk about a few things that I just found strange while playing this game, but it's really nitpicking at this point. If you can buy vigors at any given repository, why are there only 2 enemy types in this game that actually use them? I mean, you'd think that with all these vending machines supplying the vigors all around town, you'd want to have these really cool, supernatural powers. Okay, another thing is there is no way that Booker can jump from one platform onto the skyhook unless he's like Spider-Man. And if he jumps from such a height from the skyline onto the ground, his ankles will shatter like that. This one I kind of forgive because I guess maybe the vigors provide some sort of, I don't know, health resistance or strength resistance to when you actually make that impact towards the ground. But again, kind of worth noting here, guys. Here's another thing, and this would happen more often than not. You'd go scavenging around Columbia, or you'd shoot down an enemy, and you'd search him, and you'd find like 6 shotgun shells and a pineapple. I mean, what cop says to himself, I'm gonna carry a pineapple on my entire route? Now, obviously, this is an extreme example, but you'd come across people who have been killed, or you'd come across trash cans, and you'd find cake in there, or hot dogs in there, and you just eat it like it's no big deal. And there's some instances in this game where you'll just be shot to shit, you'll have like 12 bullets in you, you'll have like this much health left, and then you'll come across like a grocery store, and you'll start eating every food in sight, and you'll get back up to half health, and you'll be thinking, well, where is it in this reality where food heals bullet wounds? And, you know, really my last nitpick is, you know, towards the beginning of the game, when everything is so idyllic and everything is so peaceful, and you've got this stranger, who's essentially a stranger, he's Booker DeWitt, comes out to Columbia, and he essentially goes into every shop, and he starts rifling and stealing shit. And none of the citizens of Columbia react to this. I don't know, if you see a guy with a gun who's rifling through a purse or going into a store and stealing stuff out of the cash register, I'd be more likely to say something. And what's even more astounding is that none of the citizens have guns themselves. I mean, you think of this world where you can just go to the vending machine and purchase ammo or purchase new weapons, you'd have every citizen in the city packing heat. And it would have been cool if at one point in this game, all of the citizens just took out their shotguns and just started shooting Booker for no reason. But I digress. I still think Bioshock Infinite is one of the best games ever made, and I really enjoyed playing it, despite all the stuff I just said. Now, I want to hear what you have to say. Did you like Bioshock Infinite? Did you dislike it? Is there a point that I may have missed in my discussion about Bioshock Infinite? Feel free to post a comment in the comment section below, and as always, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. That being said, I'm the Millennium Gamer, signing off.